This is the WingSpan Radio Show, the official podcast of Civil Air Patrol's Florida Wing, bringing you news and information about professional volunteers serving communities of Florida with emergency services, cadet programs, and aerospace education. And now, here's your WingSpan Radio host, Captain Ty Lanin.
And today on the WingSpan Radio Show, we are honored to have aviation legend Colonel Mary Feik with us and Cadet Captain Tony Barnes. How are you guys doing today?
Outstanding, sir.
Colonel Feik, you've made the trip down here from Maryland to join us at the Florida Wing Conference as you have. Is this the second or the third year in a row?
It could be more.
Could be more than that, and I know it's a hit. When you do your session with the cadets, I know every cadet, male and female, is lining up to be in that session. And the things that you have accomplished in your life in aviation and in Civil Air Patrol, incredible, absolutely incredible. What are the highlights of your aviation career?
Well, I think being able to work with men, do what they want to do, and to follow things that my father said to me when I left home. And the first thing he said to me, always be a lady. Don't be one of the guys.
You rebuilt your first V8 automobile engine. You were 13 years old. I can imagine in that time, that wasn't the thing that the typical girl is doing on the weekend.
Well, it was a very rare engine. It was just being introduced to the people buying automobiles. It was a brand new idea. And the man who had this ran it into the ground and needed to have it overhauled. Brought it to my dad. My father said, okay, Mary, it's all yours.
What made you make the switch from automobile engines? How did you get into aviation from that?
There's not a whole lot of difference, really. I mean, reciprocating engines, the only thing that was different when I got into jets, the whole idea of propelling an airplane with jet power is different, and it was very, very serious to try to get that done.
And Tony, I know that as a 17-year-old girl, it must be a great opportunity for you to sit here with Colonel Feik. We have a cadet achievement, of course, named after her, and I know that you've earned it. What sort of questions? The challenges facing young ladies today are probably so much different and yet so much the same as they were when you were her age. And we have a girl here who loves aviation and obviously very successful as a cadet officer in Civil Air Patrol. I'd like to have you guys talk a little bit, and let's just let you guys talk. Any questions you'd like to ask?
When you were in Civil Air Patrol back in your day, how is it compared to the present time Civil Air Patrol, minus the technical aspects, of course?
Technical aspects, many more options. When I was growing up, there were very few options in anything electronic or with automobiles, and certainly I had no connection at all with airplanes. And so, but I found out that with airplane engines and automobile engines, there were things that were the same, except, of course, in airplane you have to consider altitude, where the air is quite different. And so your carburation always had to be part of your problem that you had to fix. Be sure that you could get, is in this case, to fly a B-29 to 57,000 feet, which was the ceiling for the engine. But we had to find out what was wrong with that airplane, was it engine or the propeller. And so that's the way we found out.
So you weren't just flying them, you were involved in the development and design. You were a test pilot.
That's right.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Well, I had to design everything to fit the training schedule of brand new men that were going to come in, learn to fly, and go to combat. And that involves changing an airplane engine, using block and tackle, and a tree limb out in the boondocks. Because these 25 men I was going to teach were going to go into combat, and I had to teach them how to handle combat situations.
It's survival.
Absolutely.
And gosh, Tony, all you have to do is stand in formation and go for a little O flight in a 182, huh?
Somewhat like that, yeah.
Something like that.
For girls in Civil Air Patrol, I know the times have changed since when you were a cadet, but what do you think is the most funnest you ever had in Civil Air Patrol out of all of your time?
Well, basically, if I'm with the cadets, I always have a lot of fun. Once they get the idea that I am a colonel and I'm not going to impose my rank on them, then I get to learn a lot. I can give you one example. We had a young man who was attending all of our things, and he had a book right up under his nose, and he was looking around making notes, and I had an opportunity to ask him what his career option's going to be. And he said, I'm going to be an international lawyer like my uncle. Then on the other side of the table, it was a 15-year-old young man just jumping all over the place. And I said, what are you going to do? Well, he got all huffy, and he said, I'm going to be a paleontologist. And he proceeded to spell paleontology for me. Now, and then the other two youngsters there, they said, we don't have anything to say.
They might have been smart cadets.
I know, but that's the part that's wonderful about kids. If you can get them to talk to you about what they really want to do in their life, that is the greatest thing that ever happened to me, and that they will talk to me about that.
Now, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned when you first joined your squadron. How old were you when you first joined your squadron? What were your first thoughts about it?
Oh, I was probably in my 70s.
So the majority of your career in aviation, I know you came to Civil Air Patrol later as a method to give back to the aviation world that had given you so much and given you your love and passion for it and your career. And as a professional aeronautical engineer coming to Civil Air Patrol, you know, we always say there's a job for everybody here. But for you, primarily, you want to work with the cadets because we were talking earlier before we went on the air that when you can give them that gift of direction, that these are our next generation of leaders in this world. That's really your passion, is not so much the flying and the aviation aspect of CAP, but more so the cadet program, right?
That's exactly right.
Since your time in Civil Air Patrol, you've been around basically all in the aviation world. Have you ever been to other air shows and other different parts of the world and seen organizations like Civil Air Patrol?
Well, I'm a life member of the Experimental Aircraft Association. I have been a part of them, let me say, since 1948. And my big job was to teach fabric covering, to teach how do you overhaul an engine, the whole aspect of what the Civil Air Patrol would use. And, of course, we do have the cadets that help at all of the Oshkosh fly-ins, and they get a look at what is going on there. And they're learning from that also.
Colonel Feik, you've done so much in your life, so much more than most people could even dream about doing. And I know you say dream big, and yes, you can do it if you put your mind to it. You've obviously done pretty well at that, and you're making an impact to make sure that our next generation does as well. So one final question here, and this is so broad, I hope you can even have an answer. What is the highlight of your life?
The highlight of my life was to actually find something other than having to go to college because they wouldn't take me. What options would I was thinking about? It was my father that helped me with that because he got my first job teaching aircraft maintenance in Seymour Johnson Field. And then with the base not being open and no cadets to teach, I wrote a letter as a teenager to Wright Field. I wrote it in pencil, incidentally, and I said, this is where I am, this is what I'm trying to do, there has to be a better way. And 2 days later, I got a telegram, and I was hired. And that was my opening for my life.
And you surely have paved the way for people like myself and Tony and everybody else that loves aviation. And thank you for that. And it's an honor to have you here with us. And thank you so much for coming here. And everybody listening, this is Captain Ty Linden. I'm here with Colonel Mary Feik and Cadet Captain Tony Barge. Thanks for joining us on the Wingspan Radio Show. We'll talk to you next time.